Yes, kindly go ahead.
Merci beaucoup. Il y avait des soucis techniques. Je disais que Enda Afrique francophone est une organisation à but non lucratif, membre du réseau Enda Termon et de lead international. Sa vision est de contribuer à surtout faire en Afrique un leadership plus sensible et ouvert aux exigences du développement durable à travers des activités de formation de haut niveau dans le domaine du leadership, de l'environnement et du développement. Sa mission est de développer le leadership transformationnel. Enda Afrique francophone s'investit dans le renforcement des capacités, dans le renforcement également de la recherche-action au développement durable et la promotion des agents de changement. Nous intervenons également dans plusieurs domaines, dans le domaine du changement climatique, dans l'autonomisation économique des femmes, la responsabilité sociétale des entreprises, dans la promotion de la bonne gouvernance et la participation citoyenne à travers les mouvements sociaux, etc. Aussi, je vais axer mon intervention sur la contribution de la société civile à la promotion de l'espace civique à travers la sensibilisation que les organisations de la société civile au niveau de l'Afrique de l'Ouest sont en train de faire, à travers la création d'espaces de dialogue, des initiatives de collaboration également, et aussi à partir des plaidoyers pour des politiques inclusives. Concernant la sensibilisation, la société civile de l'Afrique de l'Ouest organise des campagnes de sensibilisation et des programmes de formation, de renforcement de capacités pour mettre en lumière l'importance et la participation citoyenne de la démocratie, des relations intergénérationnelles, de la solidarité. Et ces initiatives sont menées à travers des ateliers de formation, des tables rondes, des conférences, etc. L'exemple typique que je vais donner par rapport à ce qu'on est en train de faire, c'est le projet Warafes sur le renforcement des capacités des jeunes à la gestion du suivi des affaires publiques au Sénégal, et aussi le projet pour la mobilisation et formation aux mouvements sociaux. Parce que tout simplement, à travers la culture urbaine et aussi à travers la média traditionnelle, ces projets insistent sur la formation, le renforcement de capacités de ces acteurs-là, sur la démocratie, sur l'engagement citoyen, mais aussi sur tout ce qui est engagement pour promouvoir la démocratie. Aussi, par rapport à l'espace, à la création d'espaces de dialogue, Enda Afrique francophone, à l'instar de toute organisation de la société civile, joue le rôle de médiation en créant des espaces de dialogue où les jeunes et les aînés, c'est pour on peut mettre en lien les relations intergénérationnelles, peuvent se concerter, discuter de leur expérience et partager leur point de vue sur des questions pertinentes, des dialogues. Ces dialogues également ouvrent des opportunités pour mieux se comprendre et pour trouver des solutions communes. Cela encourage également la co-création de solutions. Et à titre d'exemple, à travers le projet ULED, ou également la promotion du contenu local, ou également à travers l'espace de dialogue, ou également à travers de colloques et des cadres de suivi budgétaire qu'on a mis, que Enda Afrique francophone a mis en place, et a permis à ces acteurs de se discuter des des connaissances qui sont véritablement anciennes, mais également d'insister sur les modèles actuels, nouvelles modèles durables actuels qui sont appris par les jeunes, pour dire qu'il y a un espace de dialogue qui permettra à un apprentissage mutuel entre les générations. Et
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Babacar.
pour terminer, allô? Vous m'entendez?
Yes, yes, we heard you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Babacar. Thank you.
Ok, c'est juste pour terminer sur un point, c'est-à-dire par rapport aux orientations. Si c'est possible, monsieur le modérateur.
Okay, so I mean, I think Babacar started off very well, talking about creating spaces, dialogue spaces for different generations, using that platform to ensure that, you know, different generations are participating in sensitization, training, advocacy. I think they're doing a lot of amazing things there, trying to bridge that gap. I think he said they recognize that there's a need to bring everyone along, and gave really great examples. So I'll come to you, Alphia. So I want to know, I mean, you coming from, I don't want to, you know, say whether you're Gen Y or Gen Z if I get it all wrong, but in what ways in the work that you do, in what ways do the generational differences have an impact on your work? If you could share some of your experience and then examples, you know, very quickly, like 5 minutes. Is that okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's good to be in this room. My appreciation to Wasi. I don't take this lightly to be here. So, of course, I'm from Liberia and I work for a pro-democracy institution, and I'm managing the Young Political Leadership School Africa. So since I have time, and let me just go straight to the point. So I believe, and I know all of us in this room can attest to that, Africa is blessed with so much and natural resources and everything. And one of what we need to take into consideration is youthful population. The young people, there is strength in our numbers. We just don't have the numbers, but how can we utilize that? It's through empowerment and education. And there is a common saying in Africa that if you want to plant the new mat, you have to sit on the old one first. So through my work, the Young Political Leadership School is actually a platform that was created to contribute to a formation of a new generation of character-driven, political, and socially active leaders that will be accountable and accessible to the needs and interests of their citizens in respective countries. And we have trained over 930 young people across Africa. We just hosted a 10th cohort that welcomed 9 different African countries, young people from there. So one thing I can say is the fact that once these young people are, or we young people are empowered, once we are given the platform, or, you know, there is platform for education so that we can learn from experience from those who have gone before us, and to be able to prepare us for leadership roles. We don't take lightly the fact that the civic space has evolved over the years, and African, including during periods of repression, activism, and progression, right? There have been youth-led organization and movement initiatives that have made significant impact in our generation. So CSOs, they empower citizens to actively get involved in their communities. So I believe if young people have the necessary knowledge and skills that they need, like through the YPLS Africa, you will find them coming up to be informed citizens, you know, in a democratic state, who understand their rights and responsibilities, not only to prepare them for political leadership, but they can be good citizens as well. And this go way to the high school level in our curriculum and everything. Civic education is very important. And then coming up to the young professionals and stuff, you know, is a platform wherein you pour into them on leadership, elections, and governance. And once they grab the knowledge, now they do better because they know better. We have a lot of young people, somebody from Namibia who won parliament, and someone right now in my country, Liberia, we have about 12 young people from our program who are contesting for representative in different districts. We have people from Nigeria and also Ghana. So I just want to stress more emphasis on engagement and empowerment for young people from your generation to our generation is very important. I believe that you should not just be known for how good you are in advocacy or whether in writing or whatever field you find yourself in, but after you, who's going to stand next? Is it going to be like, oh, we miss her because she was so good? Or are we going to say, all right, she poured into this young lady or into this, group of young people, and today they are all making impact in society. So I believe in empowerment and education as well for young people.
Thank you for that. Excellent. Thank you. I think one thing that struck me about what you just said is not just the power of numbers, but the power of an informed youth. And I think you said they do better when they know better. And I think that struck a chord with me. I hope it struck a chord with all of you. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Ouattara, I've known you for quite a while. I mean, you're one of those people that some of us looked up to when we entered into civil society. So I don't want to say you've seen it all because you're still here with us. But what I want to say is, from where you sit and from the work that you have done, working in networks, platforms, engaging on issues around governance, civic space, what do you think we should be doing to make sure that we strengthen intergenerational interactions or intergenerational conversation so that we have strong solidarity moving forward?
C'est une question délicate, Van Dyke. Oui, mais avant de répondre à la question, accordez-moi 2 minutes. Je voudrais demander à la salle de se lever. Et il n'y a pas de traduction. Je voudrais demander à la salle de se lever. Levez-vous. Alors, un standing ovation pour Nana et Waxi. Merci. Bien, je l'ai fait. Il y a un sage qui dit chez nous que quand la branche d'un arbre veut fleurir, il faut honorer les racines de l'arbre. Est-ce que vous avez compris ça? Quand la branche veut faire des fleurs, la branche doit honorer les racines de l'arbre. Et sans racines, la branche ne peut pas faire des fleurs. C'est pourquoi j'ai eu à le faire. Je ne sais pas si ça a été traduit correctement ou pas. Je tenais à le dire parce que Waxi et Nana ont une équipe très formidable. Et là, ça fait depuis 2005 que je collabore avec eux. Après, quand Telma est parti, je pensais que c'était le chaos. Mais avec l'arrivée de Nana, ça a été une envolée exponentielle. Et je tenais à te remercier. Merci surtout parce que Nana a une arme très puissante, c'est son sourire. Vous n'allez jamais voir Nana s'énerver. Est-ce que vous voyez? Et donc ça c'est important, ça fait partie des instruments générationnels. Donc je tenais à le souligner, non pas pour le plaisir de le faire, mais ça a contribué quand même à construire beaucoup de choses. Donc parmi les expériences que j'ai tirées, il y a un certain nombre d'outils au niveau des personnes, au niveau des individus, qui permet de construire cette truc générationnel. Deuxième chose, j'ai 58 ans aujourd'hui. J'ai commencé, j'avais 33 ans. Donc je suis moi-même un exemple atypique de l'interaction générationnelle entre la première génération et aujourd'hui. Je me retrouve avec presque mes filles. Et donc l'expérience que j'ai pu tirer de cela, c'est cette phrase du président américain qui disait « Si jeunesse savait », et si vieillesse pouvait. L'alliage entre les deux concepts. Aujourd'hui, l'expérience que j'ai tirée, on ne peut rien construire sans les jeunes. Mais au même moment, pour cette construction, il faut des jeunes qui ont la tête sur les épaules. Des jeunes qui savent respecter, des jeunes qui sont instruits, des jeunes qui sont bien formés et des jeunes qui sont respectueux des valeurs traditionnelles. Le problème qu'on a aussi, une chose que je ne cesse de le dire, j'ai fait une petite digression avant de revenir à la question. J'ai entendu ici, nous n'avons pas de problème de démocratie. Mais nous avons des problèmes avec la démocratie copier-coller, avec des valeurs qui ne nous appartiennent pas. La dame a parlé de l'achat de fruits en fouga. Quand vous prenez le peuple à Chantilly, est-ce que tout le monde peut devenir président? Non. Quand Sundiata Keita a organisé son empire, ce n'était pas à base de la démocratie occidentale. Le véritable problème qu'on a, il faudrait que les jeunes, ou bien nous faisons comprendre aux jeunes que nos valeurs endogènes doivent être intériorisées et appliquées dans les choses. Nos valeurs endogènes, il faut les cultiver. Ce n'est pas la démocratie copier-coller de l'Occident, où un jeune peut insulter sa maman, un jeune peut insulter son grand frère. Avec ces concepts-là, on ne peut jamais construire quelque chose. Troisième chose assez importante. Au début, j'avais beaucoup de problèmes avec les personnes âgées. Parce que j'ai mes concepts marxistes, léninistes que je voulais appliquer. J'avais des concepts européens que je voulais appliquer. En face, j'avais des personnes âgées. Et donc, quand on partait aux réunions, tout le temps, c'était électrique. Après, j'ai compris qu'il faut changer la donne à travers une diplomatie non gouvernementale. Ça veut dire quoi? Cette gouvernementale-là, c'est un portail collectif où chacun a sa place, chacun apporte du sien en fonction de sa capacité pour qu'on puisse atteindre les objectifs. Donc, il y a eu des espaces ou des expériences assez intéressantes. Avec, par exemple, Enda Tiers-Monde, le mouvement altermondialiste, quand on construisait, il y avait le professeur Joseph Kizerbo, Samir Amin, etc. Avec ces personnes-là, on était ensemble pour construire ce mouvement-là. Et c'est de ça qu'il faut. Et les jeunes ne pensent pas que nous autres qui sommes âgés aujourd'hui, sans nous, c'est-à-dire que vous pouvez construire le monde sans nous, c'est pas possible. Et nous aussi, on ne peut pas construire le monde sans vous, parce que après nous, c'est vous qui allez prendre le relais. Donc il faut savoir assurer le pont entre les jeunes très fougueux, qui ont des connaissances, qui ont envie de prouver, et nous les anciens. Troisième chose, il faudrait que les anciens sachent aussi laisser la place. Parce que parfois, on veut s'éterniser au pouvoir. Je vais vous prendre un exemple simple, très pratique. J'ai une mère, c'est ma maman. Quand je me mariais, c'est elle qui a pris ma mère pour envoyer au mariage. Elle est présidente d'une organisation. Le mandat est fini depuis 3 à 4 ans. Il faut qu'on cultive aussi la tendance gouvernance au niveau de nos structures. La première fois que j'ai osé dire, maman, notre mandat est fini, il faut qu'on aille à l'Assemblée générale, ce jour-là, j'ai goûté à mon totem. Mais dans ces conditions, qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? J'ai préféré me taire jusqu'à ce qu'elle se décide, voilà, pour qu'on puisse aller à l'Assemblée générale. Parce que si je vais forcer, je vais casser le ressort. Ça vous dit quoi? Que face à certains principes, face à certaines règles de gouvernance, il faut savoir trouver le juste milieu. Et comme Gbagbo le disait, quand on t'envoie, il faut savoir s'envoyer. Donc je préfère m'arrêter là. S'il y a des exemples encore plus précis, je vais revenir encore pour terminer et pour compléter. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Ouattara, for that very passionate and very important points you've raised there about us valuing our indigenous values, for us respecting each other from different generations, and just reminding us that we cannot do this alone. We have to do this together, no matter the generation. Just a quick word from interpretation is that yes, they love the passion, but when we are speaking, we should just try to think about them so that they can interpret effectively. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you. So thank you so much. So Ayo, I would also love to tap into your experience. You have a lot of experience within the activism space, and I know with the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, which I believe is still ongoing, you definitely work with different people from different generations, and there were different dynamics. So we'd love also to hear from your perspective. How do we ensure that we work together, move together in different generations, so we can even be much, much stronger than we are now?
Thank you. Actually, when I saw this topic, I have to say that I thought I'm the wrongest person, because for a start, I was born middle-aged. And then on top of that, I really didn't become involved in activism until I was in my mid-30s. And I was practicing law in a firm that happened to be involved in activism, but really, I was the Civil Liberties Organization, which is Nigeria's oldest indigenous human rights organization, was formed when I was in my 30s. So it's a bit difficult. Fortunately, so that's why, and also another problem that I have is that I can't tell what people's age. I'm the worst person for trying to decide what people's ages are. And, you know, despite my great age, and at the age of 68, I think I'm entitled to say my great age, people will still speak to me as if I'm their mate, you know. So it's, and I too don't always know that they are, you know, what age they are in relation to me. So I don't operate in this space of generational divide. I have a daughter at home, so I know she's younger than me, you know. But beyond that, I meet her friends, I interact with them. Some of her friends are old, some of them are young. And this is the problem. Fortunately, when I was in the field, I was the chair of the steering committee of the World Movement for Democracy, which is a project of the National Initiative for Democracy. And they fortunately had they would recognize young people and specifically have awards for young people and ways of bringing young people into involvement in the struggle for democracy and to maintain democracy. And similarly, when I was with the Open Society Initiative for West Africa, it also had grants that were specifically directed towards young people. So I can say that I've done my bit in terms of support for young people, even if I myself don't do them. I notice, however, that, you know, as they say, no country for old men. There are no programs for old women and or old people. Perhaps the assumption is that you either can do it for yourself or you're already irrelevant. And so I think if we're talking about bridging generational divides, we should carry all generations along. So I don't want to really spend too much time talking about the past, except to say that all these things that we see, if you do listen to those who are older, you will see that we've seen it again. The first coup that I experienced in Nigeria, in this country, was on the night of the 31st of December, or the 30th of December, 1983. And at that time, we'd had elections that were so rigged, that were so falsified, that even the ruling party, they said that we're no longer doing landslide, we are doing moonslide. It was that bad. And so when the military seized power, we were rejoicing and saying, yes, they're coming to right. But of course, that was that didn't last. You know, it vanished like that in the blink of an eye. Because when they now asked the incoming dictator, yes, and so what are your plans for the return to civil rule? He said, civil rule? I haven't thought about that. And that was General Buhari, who later became, as a slightly older man, became re-educated about why he should have thought about that, why he should in fact think about that. And even though he had not attended any pro-democracy programs for old people, he nonetheless became a Democrat and learned that, yes, that democracy is important. And so when I see the size of demonstrations in Niamey being hailed to support somebody who quite frankly and quite obviously only seized power in order to get out ahead of the accountability that was coming his way, not because he was anti-France, not because he was pro-people. All those things come after, when you're now trying to justify your seizure of power. But I find myself, and this is when we talk about what we're looking for in the future, what should be our future path, it is that young people should be asking, how exactly is it that we determine the support for any administration? Because when we decided that we were going to take on the Abacha dictatorship, Abacha said he's going to have a 2 million man march in Abuja because he wanted to become president by hook or by crook. And we said, okay, we're going to have a 5 million man march counter demonstration in Lagos. Now, in truth, when we set out for our demonstration, we all fitted into 3 Danfo buses, which is the minivans. So, 5 million people, we'll be fitted into these 3 vans, and we set off for the place of the demonstration, and the people were cheering us and so on. But of course, once we got to the spot where we were to demonstrate, our leader, Olisa Babacar, went forward to say, look, we're just here for a peaceful demonstration. Here people are demonstrating in Abuja. I want to do our own here in Lagos. It's the same thing. We're all demonstrating about they just took their right and bang him across the face. And the next time when he appeared in the magistrate's court after having spent the night in jail, his eye was the size of a grapefruit. So it's not that our demonstration was large. And yet we knew that most of the people in Nigeria were on our side, because when the dictatorship now wanted to have its elections, people boycotted the election because what's the point of this? Why should we bother to go along with this charade? Yet at Abuja, I won't say that he had 2 million people because they were all busting and they were paid and so on. But I would suggest that if you're a young person, you don't measure the popularity of a usurper by the number of people who he is able to turn out, particularly in a dictatorship where the people who might want to turn out contra or against are in a dictatorship. So it takes something before you work up the courage to be able to say, we're going to come out and we're going to oppose this. Because in Nigeria, we had come out to oppose the attempt by Ibrahim Babangida in 1993 to annul the presidential election, and they killed 93 people on the streets of Lagos. So it's not that people are not ready to come out, but you have to regroup and recover your courage before these things happen. And as has been said, any government after a while in power becomes unpopular. You get fed up with them, you want to try something else. But as I say, in Norway, when they don't like their government, they go to elections and they vote them out. They don't call the army in to start all over afresh. And so I would say to our young ones who are in this space, in this pro-democracy, this civil society space, that don't be swayed by the siren song of we are going to clear the table and we're going to start afresh. Everything is going to be new, because we're not bringing people in from Mars to run our countries, to run our democracies, or to be our elected representatives. What I would urge us in civil society, and the point had been made before, what support can civil society give to those who do go into government? Because even when I was appointed to the Police Service Commission, the NGO called the Center for Law Enforcement Education in Nigeria, that's the Clean Foundation, they said, look, we want to work with you so that your membership of the police service, even though you're just an ordinary part-time member, your membership will be meaningful. And fortunately, I had a non-uniformed chair who was also very interested in trying to make that membership or make his own chairmanship meaningful. So he was open to new ideas and to setting up a method of communicating with the Police Service Commission and so on. Police Service Commission chairs who came after said, any police officer who approaches the Police Service Commission is committing an act of insubordinate. It's being insubordinate. So it's not always going to be easy. But I think that that civil society's job is not to say, oh, I've gone to chop at this table. They're now one of them. Rather, civil society is to say, don't forget where you came from. We're not here to criticize you. We're here to make sure that the things that you adhered to when you were there are things that we're going to help you to achieve when you get there. Not that we're not going to be at your, dragging you and abusing you and so on. And I admit that in those days, I didn't have social media to contend with, where I've seen people who have been frightened away from moving from civil society into governance because they're afraid of what social media is going to say about them. And so I want to say that we should try to encourage anybody who can, even if they're going to come out and say, I can't exist in that space, they would have seen how the government sausage is made. And they will understand that it's not quite as perfect and tasty as we might think it is. but that we can help them to navigate that space. And that really, I think, is probably what I want to say. I want to emphasize this is not the time for us to be sending mixed signals about our support for democracy. We cannot be saying, well, but the people who we elected, they're not doing well, or they're messing up their this and that. Because we have to understand that it's either that we, within the tools that we have in our democracy, even if we're still calling it civil rule, and when we became a democracy in 1999, the Transition Monitoring Group said we're not going to disband because we're still in transition. We know that it's not that today we were a dictatorship and tomorrow we're a democracy. We recognize that it's a journey and it's going to take time. So I want us to also say that, please don't let us fall for this idea that we can justify the takeover, the usurpation of power, and say that somehow a military person who seizes power better articulates than the people we elected into office, because we're now fed up with those people.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to really be very, we should not be sending mixed messages as we appear to be doing now. So yes, let civil society teach the citizens how to use the tools of democracy, because even in a state where you seem to have the president have been there since the year, before you were ever born, you say you have an elected representative. Put that elected representative on their toes. Teach citizens how to use the tools of their democracy, because it's not everything is not about electing the president. There are the courts, there are the elected representatives, there are your freedoms, your rights to demonstrate, your rights to freedom of assembly, and so on. But I think if we see civil society as we want to always be in the limelight fiercely and glamorously fighting against the military dictators, then our actions will probably bring those dictators back for us to have to fight. And at the end of the day, we're not really making the progress that we need to make. So let us work with our people. We can criticize. It's not that we can't criticize them, but we also need to not always say that the criticism about me being the one who criticizes, and more about, is the criticism entering your head? Are you understanding why we are not satisfied? That's really the point. It's either that we want to be in the limelight, or we want to achieve the thing. Sometimes the two go together, sometimes they don't. So I think that is where I'll end my.
Thank you so much, Madam Ayo, for that. Very important points about, of course, bringing all of us along, but also for the younger generation, not getting carried away by the glamour of coup d'etats and the messaging, and warning us that it's important for us to make the system work. This is the best system that we have. It has faults, but we need to make it work from the bottom up. And to hold our elected representatives accountable, use legal means, and make that system work. So it's about educating young people to get that done. So just because of time constraints, we want to make this conversational and interesting. So I would like to get, I know that there are colleagues who will want to ask questions and make contributions from here and even online. So please, you are welcome to ask questions. You are welcome to direct it either at Ouattara, Babacar, Alphia, or Ayo, and then they will respond to those questions, because we want to make this more interactive. So any questions, please? Yes, I think there's a person at the back there. Kindly go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Okechukwu Wangoma. Mine is just a comment to reinforce the point that has been made. For my brothers and sisters from other West African countries, I don't know if history is still part of the curriculum in your educational studies, because I'm saying this because in Nigeria, history was removed as a course of study. So during the EndSARS protest in October 2020, which was a mass youth-led rebellion against police brutality, the youth felt it was their business alone. Some of the older generation who went to join that movement were asked to go, the generation has failed us. But these were young people who didn't realize that the older generation were there during June 12th when we were fighting against the annulment of a democratic election. They didn't know that the older generation were there in the days of military, fight against military dictatorship. Now, the gap is that because history is no longer part of our curriculum, the young people have not read the story of the struggle that the older generation were involved in. So they saw them as your generation failed us. So I think that we need to restore history back so that we bridge that gap. There's need for interaction and communication between the older and the younger generation for us to have this harmony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. The importance of history. I think I see a hand at the back there. Can we keep our contributions, questions as brief as possible? Yes, please. Yes, please. Kindly go ahead.
Thank you very much. And mine is just to talk to the younger generation and to identify some of the key issues. I think the current problem now is the quest for money rather than learning is the big problem. And I use myself as a case study here from the positive end for the current generation, especially those who are watching online to learn and those who are in here to learn. In my organization, I came as an intern. The focus was to learn and not money. And from there, I became a volunteer. From volunteering, I became a project officer. Project officer, program officer. Program officer, I became a programs manager. All of these years was a learning process. The focus wasn't around money. And I had to tap from the older generation because they have the knowledge, they've seen it all, they can share with you. And even when the executive director of CGG left for studies, you realize that because of the knowledge, because I've learned from her so much, I've been able to run the organization even in her absence. And even when there are issues, I give her a call to give me direction. So the willingness from the younger generation to learn from the older is required if we are to address this problem. And money should not be the primary focus. I think if you capacitate yourself very well as a younger generation, money will come, opportunities will come, platforms will be created wherein you will contribute.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we'll come to the table in front, please. Madam, you can go ahead. Please, just pay attention.
Thank you so much.
When they talk about money, people get excited. Well, madam, go ahead.
My question is to the young lady. We recognize that young people are not a homogeneous group. There's a lot of diversity with young people, different religions, ethnicities, political affiliations, and so on. So what exactly is this capacity that needs to be provided that can help young people align with a dream of democracy, development, and so on, outside of their political, socioeconomic, whatever affiliations and differences that they have? Recognizing also that a lot of young people are also in government, because we always have this assumption that young people are good and older people are bad. And a lot of young people actually are the ones that perpetuate a lot of the problems that we have during elections. They are the thugs. When they go into office. I mean, in Nigeria, we can talk about the governors who were all less than 40 years old. They were no better than the ones who were in their 60s or more. So what exactly do you think that young people need that can give them a sense of purpose, a sense of economic development? As last person said, there's a lot of focus on money. Money is a good thing, but how do you ensure that that money and the quest for money is done in a way that is not detrimental to the society and even to the young people themselves? So what do you think is that capacity building, that training, that networking, those things that need to be done so that we can have young people who have a bigger vision and a bigger dream for Africa than my generation did?
Thank you for that. So, Madam, and then we'll go to maybe 2 or 3 more, and then we need to move on so that our panelists can also have their closing remarks.
Merci. C'est Sophie du Sénégal. Alors, c'est une question-contribution qui est ouverte. Hein, ça s'adresse aux panélistes de manière générale, ou même à la salle, je ne sais pas. Il y a une chose qu'on observe depuis des années, plus de 10 ans, peut-être même 20 ans, au Sénégal, mais dans d'autres pays de la sous-région, Mali, Guinée, probablement en Côte d'Ivoire, je ne sais pas pour les pays anglophones, c'est que dans l'espace public où œuvre la société civile, notre génération travaillait, on peut dire globalement, à partir de valeurs républicaines laïques. C'était le corpus idéologique. Or, je schématise, hein. Or, là, maintenant, quand je vois la génération des 20, 25, même 30 ans, femmes et hommes, il y a aujourd'hui, dans l'espace public de la société civile, des gens qui interviennent à partir d'un corpus idéologique religieux, musulman, chrétien, et qui est organisé localement, nationalement, mais également à partir de la géopolitique mondiale. Et ça s'observe dans la place, dans l'espace public, ça s'observe dans les médias, ça s'observe dans les maisons. Je vois chez moi, on a une discussion. Je donne une référence, je sais pas moi, de Che Guevara, je donne une référence de Bob Marley. Mon fils me cite le Coran et je suis un peu surprise, mais je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de jeunes aujourd'hui qui sont dans cette dynamique-là. Or, ça signifie que l'espace public des sociétés civiles est en train d'entrer aussi dans une forme de tension et de confrontation. Et donc, alors, est-ce qu'il y a eu un enjeu de transmission que nous n'avons pas pris en charge, ou est-ce que ça reflète tout simplement les tensions globales? Mais voilà, la question se pose là. Et donc, premièrement, est-ce que vous avez observé ça? Et deuxièmement, est-ce que c'est vraiment une question qu'il nous faut, est-ce que c'est pas une question qu'il nous faut adresser, aborder de manière urgente, parce que ça concerne véritablement la gouvernance, quoi qu'il en soit. Merci.
Thank you so much. Please, I think 2 more. Apologies, please. Awal and Sir.
Thank you very much, Charles. I listened to colleagues' comment on this subject, and it appears we are throwing the challenge to the young people. And I want us to look at it. I mean, the flip side of it. Can we accept the challenge first? How deliberate are we in terms of creating safe spaces and working with young people to build the needed skills and act? Intergenerational activism will continue to elude us if we fail to be deliberate about building movement at different levels. Currently, we appear to have an attitude, wait until it is your turn. And this mindset, it influences the way we develop our strategies and implement them. And so it's high time we started looking at some of the strategies that we have used in the past that have excluded these young people, that today we appear to be blaming them. Let's take Ghana as an example. 10 years back, if we talked about women-led organization, women kind of activism or gender kind of activism, you were going to find well-organized organizations. You will listen to activists and they'll convince you. So it wasn't surprising at the time that you were able to influence certain policies. Today, if you talk about women movement in Ghana, those organizations, where are they? What can we see about the transition? And it's not peculiar to Ghana, it's everywhere. So I think that we need to recognize what intergenerational activism can do for us as a sub-region and work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very important point. Yes, sir. So if you can make it very concise, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Nathaniel Isufikundia from Sepo, Ghana, and I'm a millennial, so I just wanted to contribute about the whole intergenerational conversation. Now, the concern about intergenerational reflection is existing among all generations. My first question is, are the young people seen as assets in the organizations that we are working in? For example, in my company, my director could have come, or my senior lawyer could have come, but they allowed me to come because they felt that I'm an asset to them to learn. Also, the other point I would like to say is there reciprocal learning? We, the millennials and Gen Zs, are seen as lazy, overreactive, but as our older generation trying to learn from us, as our older generation is trying to learn from us. For example, my director can call me, that's come and sit down and teach me how to do certain presentations and other things. And that makes me feel that I'm important there. Now, with the issue of the money, I would say that we are not looking for money. We are looking for opportunities. Me being here replaces all forms of money that I could have gotten if I was doing certain things. And also, it's because we've seen that from our older generations in organizations, they're also looking for money. And so once we also come in, even to do internship or even to start, we see that it's all about the money. And so it's something that we need to solve. And I'm very grateful. One of the participants said that history, we don't know history. And even as our moderators were talking, she mentioned that if we know better, we'll do better. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I'm tempted to take more questions, but because of time, so forgive me, please. Our colleague Babacar has been, is Babacar still online with us? Hello? Yes, so Babacar, if you can share we are doing the last round. So if you can share your closing remarks and pointers as to how we can really strengthen intergenerational dialogue. Please, 2 minutes, please.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Et aussi pour la qualité sonore de tout à l'heure, parce que je suis toujours en déplacement et je m'en excuse également. Et aussi parler de intergénérationnel, je voulais juste dire que parce qu'il y a plus de pourquoi je vais droit au but, parce qu'il y a plus de suggestions et de contributions que de questions. Et aussi dire que l'avenir de l'espace civique en Afrique de l'Ouest nécessite également une attention particulière à l'inclusion de tous les groupes, y compris les femmes, les jeunes. On a parlé beaucoup des jeunes, mais sans oublier également les personnes en situation de handicap. Et les réflexions également pourraient véritablement explorer des moyens de garantie pour que ces personnes-là ne soient pas laissées en rade et soient impliquées dans le long du processus, que ce soit la protection de la réparation, mais aussi la protection de la réparation de quoi? Des droits humains, mais aussi de la démocratie. Je vous remercie. Merci.
Excellent. Thank you, Babacar, for that. Thank you so much. Safe travels. Ayo, I mean, you shared a lot of experience and your perspectives earlier on. Closing, what should be our takeaway? What would you want to tell us about intergenerational dialogue? I think you can use this one.
Well, you mentioned, as a moderator, that I participate in the Bring Back Our Girls, and that's because I had decided that once we have elected representatives, I'm only going to focus on single issue campaigns. And at the Bring Back Our Girls, we have it's really it's not an organization, it's a movement. So if you turn up, you speak. And because I happen to live within walking distance of the place where we meet, I go every time I'm free. And people come, some just are passing, some make it a point of coming. But what we do is that we try to encourage every person that comes to speak. And some have developed the confidence to be able to speak out in public. We have some who accompanied their mothers as babes in arms or small schoolgirls. One of them, Sarah, she now comes and she leads us in our, what are we demanding? Bring back our girls. And she's been with us for, I'm sorry to say, 9 years, because that's how long we've been campaigning and standing in the gap. So it's not necessary that we have a program of saying we are now going to pick out young people. You bring them along. You offer the opportunity to participate, as the young man said. And that's how they build their skills. Because the biggest problem that many have is the fear of speaking in public, fear of making oneself look foolish in public, and so on and so forth. Now, we lawyers, we have to learn to speak in public because that's our trade. But for other people, it's not necessarily so easy. So I'm not sure I've heard about the wait until it's your turn mantra, simply because the field is so wide that you can put down your bucket where you are and you will draw up fresh water. And you start from there. But I think also one thing I would want us to avoid is generalizations about generations. I don't assume that all the young people are lazy, jobless, uncaring, and so on. As I said, I have them in my house. They don't come from another planet. And at the same time, even when they talk about, you elderly people, they also know that I'm there and that I'm an elderly person and that, I don't have half a head or anything. So I think that if we can avoid generalizing about the generations, it will help the dialogue. And as I said, it's difficult for me to say, I'm now talking to a young person and this is the tone that I will adopt. And I think if we could all do a bit more of that, we would probably do that. But yeah, definitely the money is important too.
I like that. The money is important. Ouattara, so would love to hear your closing remarks now that you are going into another generation, sixth floor.
Merci beaucoup. C'est vrai qu'on n'a pas eu le temps pour développer tout ce qu'on devait dire compte tenu du temps imparti. Il y a pas mal de choses à dire. Alors, moi, je pense qu'il y a 2 ou 3 choses. D'abord, je vais répondre à 2 ou 3 questions. La question soulevée par Madame du Sénégal, la question religieuse, ce n'est pas un défaut de transmission, mais on dit la nature a horreur du vide. C'est-à-dire que comme la nature a horreur du vide, si vous ne l'occupez pas, les choses vont faire en sorte qu'elles soient occupées d'elles-mêmes. On a conçu un modèle de société sans Dieu, sans religion. On se focalise seulement sur les créatures. Mais si on admet qu'il y a des créatures, c'est qu'il y a un créateur. Et pourquoi on ne parle pas du créateur? Or, parler du créateur, ça paraît abstrait, c'est faire référence aux religions. Donc moi, je pense que c'est un vide. Il faut obligatoirement entrevoir, que ce soit à la maison, que ce soit dans les programmes scolaires ou partout où nous parlons, il faut ouvrir cette fenêtre-là. Sinon, aujourd'hui, qui sont ceux qui sont dans le guérisme? C'est ça. Donc, la question religieuse, elle est très importante par rapport à la nature humaine elle-même. Donc, c'est ce que je voulais dire par rapport à ça. Deuxième chose aussi importante que je voulais ajouter, si vous voyez qu'au départ, j'ai parlé des choses, par exemple, Waxi a un programme de jeunes, je ne sais pas si ça continue toujours, le programme interne des jeunes. Voilà un exemple à capitaliser et à véhiculer. Deuxième chose, les jeunes, c'est extrêmement important. C'est-à-dire qu'entre les vieux et les jeunes, c'est comme la main droite et la main gauche. Est-ce que la main droite peut agir seulement sans la main gauche et vice-versa? Non. Donc, c'est forcer il faut qu'on travaille ensemble. Maintenant, il faut une meilleure répartition des rôles et des tâches. C'est ça. Nous, on ne peut pas tout faire. Tout comme les jeunes aussi ne peuvent pas tout faire. C'est une question de planification et d'une meilleure répartition des tâches et des rôles. Mais aussi une complémentarité. Le principe de subsidiarité doit exister dans nos actions. De telle sorte que là où les jeunes ne peuvent pas, les anciens, etc., etc. Et enfin, il y a des défis assez importants à parler à la chose. Le défi communicationnel, le défi financier, le défi d'adaptation au changement et le défi d'anticipation. Et donc, si on adresse ces questions-là, forcément, on oublie de travailler ensemble. Et enfin, aujourd'hui, on parle de l'espace civique. Mais j'ai oublié de le dire. On est passé de l'espace civique qui n'existait pas à un espace civique embryonnaire. Et aujourd'hui, on passe d'un espace civique embryonnaire à un espace physique où tout le monde vient parler. Par le passé, ce n'était pas gagné d'avance. Par le passé, avoir ce genre de rencontres, si le régime des partis uniques, ce n'était pas évident. Et maintenant, vers où on veut aller? On veut aller vers un espace civique incubateur, un espace civique régulateur, un espace civique transformateur et un espace civique propulseur des valeurs. Et pour construire cet espace civique-là, on a besoin à la fois des vieux et des jeunes. Si on n'a pas compris cela, c'est qu'on navigue à vue. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ouattara, for that. So, Alphina, I think you're good. Oh, okay. Well, say it again. Alphia, sorry, apologies. Alphia, so we'd love to, I know there was a question to you, so if you can respond to that question and then maybe add your closing remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So just to answer the question, firstly, thank you so much, ma'am, for that question. Diversity, I believe, exists in all generations. Even as humans, we are diverse in nature. We are different. So I think we need to focus on what we have in common, right, as young people. We are all looking forward to the future. So that is in common. All of us want something good. We want better for the future. We want tomorrow and the rest of it. And how can we actually get to that point? Through the opportunities, the networking opportunities, leadership training programs, mentorship, that would do good for us, because let's just forget our diversity and focus on what we have in common that we can all build upon. So I think that's it. And to give an example, in Liberia, we have this program that we just worked on. It's called the National Youth Manifesto. There are, of course, diversity in my country. In fact, 16 tribes. There are a lot of people, different people. But one thing we did, all of the counties in Liberia, there are young people that are there. We rally with young people to recognize the issues that they are facing in my country and come up with the National Youth Manifesto. This is a document that we present to every political party or politician to say this is our interest as young people. Since we make up over 60% of the population, you want our vote, you have to include this in your manifesto for us. And that is education, is healthcare, and a lot of other issues that we have in common. So we just focus on what we have in common instead of our diversity, right? And then another thing that I want to you spoke about waiting. Of course, I've heard that young people should wait. I don't take that as an offense. I think young people should wait as well. But let's define the wait. Waiting is not wasting. I am waiting. You are waiting. Matter of fact, I've been waiting since I was 16. That's when I started working, when I was 16 years old. And I'm 24 now. I am still waiting. I have gotten my first degree, my second degree, and so many other programs I participated in. I am preparing for what I foresee, what I envision for my future, but I am waiting. And in the waiting period, we as young people have to define what the wait is. It does not mean we should sit and do nothing. Yes, we are waiting, but let's learn. Let's develop ourselves. Let not our waiting period be our wasting period. So if an older person tell you to wait, I don't think they mean, just go on the other side, but get your education, get the experience that you need and everything before going forward to that position. So your waiting cannot be wasting, right? And then before I close, I just also want to talk about what Mr. Ouattara said about the democracy, the copy and paste. I just would like to say I've heard this a lot about all copying the Western democracy and stuff. So I think that we should customize our democracy with respect to our cultural values. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. I think it was an amazing panelist. I think for me, the takeaways are, and it's about us together. We need each other. Definitely. I think we've said that today. We can learn from each other. We must appreciate and respect each other, and we are stronger together. Yeah. I think those are the 4 things that I think we, came through. So thank you so much, Ayo, Ouattara, Babacar, if you are still there and not in the plane, and Alphia for this beautiful conversation. And thank you to all of you who asked questions and participated. Thank you so much.
I think we should give this panel another round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Charles, Madam Ayo, Ouattara, and Alphia. Thank you so much. A very diverse panel, Nigerian, Ivorian, Liberian, and Ghanaian. Let's give them another round of applause.